Just going to move some things around on the screen real quick. The Mariners have won 10 straight games. The Seahawks just beat the Steelers this last weekend. It's been a great week for Seattle sports. The Storm are 1-1 in their playoff round against the Aces. A lot of stuff going on. Obviously, WSU got smacked around, so we have to talk about that for a little bit. You know, we're UW fans / Oregon State fans, so we're excited about that. But, John, it's going to be a loaded podcast. Obviously, we got to start talking about Mariners here. Anything to say before we give the listeners on Spotify and Apple Podcasts a little Coyote picnic?
No, I was excited to get into it, man. Just a fun week. A lot of sports to talk about, so let's dive in.
Yes, we are live on YouTube, so we'll stay live there. But for now, those of you on the podcast, here is some Coyote Picnic. Okay, John. We're talking about this as the Mariners game today starts, so we'll see how that goes. I feel like they've been kicking off these games red hot. But yesterday, the Mariners scored 12 runs off 5 home runs between 2 players in Cal Raleigh and Dominic Canzone. The offensive explosion has been real over the last 10 games. We've been talking about it basically for the last 2 weeks, and it's obviously really come to fruition. They hold a half-game lead on the Astros. Everything is looking good. Obviously, they still have to defend that AL West lead, but overall, it's just been pretty exciting. And I just want your kind of take on what's going on with this Mariners team over the last 10 games.
Man, it has been electric. Just a lot of really fun baseball being played. The pitching has been largely very good. If you look at these box scores, not only are we dropping a lot of double-digit run games, we're also holding them to 2 or less runs quite a few times in this stretch. But obviously, all you really want to talk about is the offensive explosion because the bats have been incredibly hot. I don't want to spoil things. We got 4 hitters for our floaters and flounders this week. Pitchers are just going to have to take the week to relax.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, obviously, Cal Raleigh had a major game yesterday just in terms of milestones, but Julio's been just electric basically since the All-Star break, and we're not even going to talk about him later. I think this team and this pitching staff is really like igniting at just the right time. The 5 runs that the Royals even scored yesterday, those were kind of like garbage time runs. We were up 9-0 by the 3rd inning, and I was even comfortable enough to turn off my computer and just watch my TV show instead of having the Mariners game on the side. I was like, okay, I can put that away. And then Dominic Canzone hit 2 more home runs. So it is what it is. But it's been just really fun to watch this Mariners team. Obviously, statistically, this team is hitting just like all of the marks, I feel like. I want to pull up their just stats comparatively to the regular to the rest of the league. They're 10th in runs scored, 11th in on-base percentage, 11th in slugging, but like recently, obviously that number has really climbed. I think they've been middling for most of the season, and their pitching is getting back to it. I think we talked a little bit maybe a month or 2 ago about how their pitching was kind of in that like 20s range for a lot of those key statistics, and their ERAs climbed up to 13th. Their quality starts is now up to 6th in the league. They've got a WHIP at 8th or WHIP at 1.24 for the team, and that's good enough for 8th in the league, and batting average against at 14th in the league at 243. So all things considered, the pitching has improved actually pretty tremendously, and the hitting has just taken a huge leap forward over this last stretch. So been very exciting to watch this Mariners team. Anything to say before we just dive into some floaters and flounders?
Yeah, just last thing on pitching because they're not going to get their cap tip today. We're going to be focusing on the batting. But yeah, it has been really, really good. Over this 10-game win streak, if we take out last night's game, because as you said, we were up 9-0. They got 5 runs down the stretch, but never even in a position to really make us nervous. So if we take that out as just a garbage time performance, in the other 9 games, only 1 time did pitching allow more than 3 runs scored. That was the 7-6 win against the Angels on September 11th. 2 of those runs were scored in extra innings. They scored 4 in through 9, but points still taken. In the other 8 of those 9 games, 3 or less runs scored, allowed, I should say, by the pitching. So they've been locked in. They've been really, really good. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about guys ripping bats, sending balls deep into the stands, and that's what the people are going to get.
Yeah, so I'm going to just lead us off in floaters and flounders, and we're actually going to talk about somebody who we isn't necessarily floating right now. I think he's kind of he may be in the midst of a floundering session, but I think Victor Robles needs a shout out. We haven't really talked about him since he's come back. He's played in 14 games. Obviously, he had that 10-game stretch where he was suspended for the bat throwing and everything like that. But in those 14 games, he's basically hitting like 270 with a 300 on base and a 380-ish slugging, and all of that slugging has come from his one triple yesterday. Other than that, he's hit all singles or doubles. He's hit one double. Never mind. He's hit one double in that stretch and one triple, and the rest have just been singles. So he's really just not producing any power, and he's hitting in that 8 spot, I believe, in the lineup, 8 or 9, depending on the day. But he's got an OPS hovering around 700 for the month of September, and he's just been like one of the most average dudes, and it's I was thinking about how nice it is to have a guy who we had batting leadoff at the end of last season, now hitting in our 9 spot. We always talk about this with JP Crawford too, but I think Victor Robles is kind of like the embodiment of that. It's like we signed him to that 2-year, $4 million deal, and we were just like, yeah, like this guy can either be our leadoff guy or be that 9-hitter and kind of replicate what JP Crawford was doing. Granted, he's not walking nearly as much as JP does, but in general, Victor Robles has been kind of everything we expected from him. He doesn't have the power that he had last year, but that was kind of a flash in the pan type thing. But just wanted to shout him out because there hasn't been a lot of Victor Robles talk because he's been gone for most of the season, but he's been pretty decent since he's been back.
Totally. Yeah. We're not here to ask him for power. He had 0 home runs in 2023 and 4 in 2024. That's just, it's not his game, but he's an on-base machine. He was 300 average in 2023, 307 in 2024. To your point, is at 273 so far, which is great. Coming off AAA. He's got 12 hits in his 14 games. He has not gone 2 games in a row without registering a hit. He's been very consistent in his time back. Now, I'd love to see his average creep up a little bit. He is up to 290 in the month of September, which is a majority of his games. So he is, continuing to sit around 300. That's awesome. That's huge. That is exactly, JP has been up and down over the course of the season. So putting a guy like Robles in that 8 or 9 hole and just having him be an on-base machine, that's fantastic. It's a huge benefit when the lineup rolls around and, suddenly Randy's hitting again, but a third of the time, Victor Robles is sitting on base. So, yeah, we both really like Robles. Of all our floaters, his statistics are going to be the least impressive, but well worth a shout out. His ability to just roll right back into it after his time off has been impressive.
Yeah, something that I do want to note that's a slight concern with Robles. I know it's been 2 weeks basically of games, but his expected batting average is sitting around 215. He's kind of a BABIP king when you think of it. He's got and expected batting average is based on the hardness of the ball hit and the angle that it gets hit at. So that's not necessarily accounting for like a tweener ground ball that gets through, or like a long infield single that most guys wouldn't run out because he's got the speed for that. So he's a little bit of an expected batting average connoisseur, if you will. Like his expected batting average, like I said, 215. Last year it was 257. Like he's not necessarily like you look at the StatCast values and you're like, oh, this guy doesn't really have it. I think that's sometimes you look at Baseball Savant or something like that and you're like, why is this guy a successful baseball player? And those are the reasons why. It's like this guy is able to get on base through weak contact or contact that's going in the wrong direction, that kind of stuff, because these kinds of things don't necessarily look at the direction of the ball's path. So I just wanted to shout that out because if you do look at his Baseball Savant page, you will see a lot of blue, and there's a reason for that, and we have to call that out here.
Yeah, it's very blue, and then 97th percentile arm strength in his fielding category. Love to see it. Throw some balls, Victor.
Need that guy on the mound.
Yeah. The next Ohtani. All right, I'm going to go next. I'm going to talk about a guy with a lot of red on his Baseball Savant page. We're switching this up. We're talking about a guy we've talked about a couple times this year, a fan favorite on this Mariners team who's just been a little bit sleepy statistically recently. Nothing bad, but nothing super explosive. And boy, did he explode this week in a big way. That is our man, the Italian stallion, Dominic Canzone. Yeah, truly an electric performance. He's been good in recent months. Bat 304 in July and 270 in August. The power hasn't really been there, but the power's been very hit or miss this season. But man, is he on a tear so far. Up until 2 days ago, his statistics were probably right around 270 again. But thanks to 8 hits in his last 10 at bats over the course of the last 2 games, he's up to 478 in the month of September with a 1,432 OPS. Yeah, just 2 electric outings from Dom Canzone. 8 hits and 10 at bats. 3 home runs, all in the last game against the Kansas City Royals. He's only had 2 multi-home run games this season. The other one in Chicago. I think somebody was there watching that game when that
Oh yeah.
happened. But yeah, just an electric 2 games from Dom. Timely home runs too. Obviously he was part of that big scoring run to go up 9-0, then gave us the 10-0 lead, and then the 2-run home run after they managed to get up to 5 runs to really say, hey, good for you getting it within 4. Now it's 6. The game is over. So just electric play from Dom. I don't know how much more there's to say. He's been a hitting machine this year. He's hitting almost 100 points higher than his previous 2-year average. Yeah, I don't understand where this is coming from, but boy, do I love to see it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it can be attributed to just like pitch selection. The guy we talked about this I think a while back, but in 2023 he was like basically doing what he was doing now, but a little bit less controlled. He was swinging at a lot of pitches, chasing some pitches out of the strike zone, all that kind of stuff. And then in 2024, the Mariners were like, "Hey, you're chasing too much. Just kind of watch more." And they basically wanted him to walk, and him walking is not the recipe for Dom Canzone's success, right? He's got the power. He was striking out a lot last year. He was walking at a 9.6% clip. He was just getting deeper into counts, and I don't think he was as comfortable as he is just kind of gripping it and ripping it. So I really like what he's done. His launch angle sweet spot percentage is up 6.5% over this last season. His expected batting average is 299. Like he's right hovering around those numbers. Those are all good things. Expected slugging is 536, and he's just like cruising along. I've really been enjoying just watching him bat, and I think it's really a testament to like the idea of like staying down, like going down to AAA and actually working on something and improving instead of just being like, when's my next shot at the bigs? Like this guy obviously put in the work and has obviously like refined his pitch selection in a way that I don't think you would see from a lot of hitters. And it's the kind of thing that we would love for Cole Young to do. He's sitting at a 215 average this season, and we love for him to go back down, kind of refine what he was doing, he's seen it, he's gotten his cup of coffee, now he'll come back up being a little bit more confident. But Dominic Canzone has kind of been through that, and this is the result of it. You love to see it. And I guess we were talking about this before the pod. We could talk a little bit about his contract here. He's making like, I think $700,000, a little over $700,000 this year, and he's pre-arb right now or for next year. So basically, he's going to make money based on what his team thinks that he should make and what the Mariners think that he should make, and they're going to kind of come to an agreement on what that amount will be. What do you think he is worth right now, and what can the Mariners maybe pay for him? Because I think there's something that to be said for last year as well.
Yeah. One thing I just want to note, arbitration as a concept is very confusing. The way you just described it is very appropriate. That's also the way you describe every contract negotiation ever.
Yeah.
That's how the team has value and the group has value. But yeah, he is so complicated because for the record, this is how we stole Victor Robles 2 years ago now, I think it is. Was he had this massive breakout year, and gosh, where was he? Was he on the Phillies before?
He was
Victor?
the Nationals.
Thank you, Nationals. And their group was basically like, hey man, this was a great breakout season for you, but we don't think you're going to do this every year. Mariners gave him a shot on a short-term deal, and he really proved it. And he's been that guy ever since. He, much like Dom, was like hanging around the low 200s, broke out to a 300 average, got away from his team, and has hit 300 ever since. So that's the positive possible outcome. There are a lot of examples of guys having awesome single seasons. Obviously, his value has increased a lot. I'm not great, especially with baseball contracts. They're so all over the place. For guys in his position, I'm assuming he should be making at least, $3 million a year if he's going to be this level of contributor. Maybe a lot more. I'm sure his team is going to push for a really big deal, and the Mariners, I'm sure, are going to push back. So the reason we were talking about this on the front end was a comment my brother, who's a big M's fan, had made of basically like, man, it's going to be really easy to say goodbye to Dom this offseason because we've got to pay Naylor. Like, we love Dom, but we just believe in Naylor way more in terms of what he can do on this team. We're probably not going to pay them both, so it's going to be easy to say goodbye to Dom. And I heard that, and it broke my heart wide open because I love Dom. This is one of my favorite guys.
Yeah, I think your brother says that, and I think we just kind of talked about it. He's going to be like $2-3 million next year. Like, I really don't
Yeah.
think he's got enough leverage to be like, oh yeah, I should be. He was an 8th round pick. Like, there's really no reason for them to believe that this is the type of season that is replicable year after year. Obviously, like a single season flash in the pan, maybe 2 years of it, and then we'll talk about him making 8 to 10 million. But until then, this is a guy who's going to make $2-3 million next year at the most. I really think that. And with
Yeah.
that being said, that leaves Naylor and his contract kind of wide open for us. I think we can really work around probably a Castillo departure from this team and move some money so that we can, give the Kirby, or I think it's Logan extension first into the payroll. And I think that's just the way this team's going to go, right? We're going to see the core members of this team really moving forward. And the Naylor question is still real because you do have to pay Gilbert, you do have to pay Kirby, and if you extend him for too long, then you've got too much money on the hand or on the books, and you can be a little concerned. But if they win the World Series, they're going to make a ton of money in ad revenue and all that kind of good stuff. A bunch of people are going to be buying jerseys. So if they keep winning, they'll be able to pay more money. Who's to say? Who knows?
I promise you, ticket sales have been a lot better this year than they have the last couple of years. So hopefully these things add up. And I will just say, obviously Castillo, we've talked about that. That's going to have to happen. Kirby and Logan, we'll see what comes out of these deals. We knew with these pitchers and what they've been able to do, at T-Mobile, but still, that keeping them all and finding a way to keep this group together is going to be very hard. I just want to say I don't really care what happens with pitching. Some of these guys we're going to keep, some of them we're going to lose. That's probably just going to be how it works. If we let Josh Naylor go, I'm going to riot. Dipoto and ownership get a ton of credit for doing what they did, going out and getting Naylor and Suarez, but if we do not hold on to Josh Naylor, I'm going to lose my mind.
Dude, I am a little shocked you said that because as the Kirby contract comes up, I was just thinking you were going to be talking about his 14 strikeout outing the other day and his dominance, and along with Brian Woo's 13 strikeouts. Like, they've had some insane pitching starts from a couple of these guys, and Woo has just really cemented himself as like a top 5 pitcher this year. Like, he would be in Cy Young contention if not for Tariq Skubal and Crochet. So
Yeah.
Woo has just really dominated, and Kirby taking that big step forward the other day was really nice to see as we get we're 2 weeks out from the playoffs. We're 2 weeks away from the playoffs, and this team is in prime positioning to come out of this winning the AL West and potentially having home series in T-Mobile for the first time, I guess, in a couple of years. We had that one T-Mobile game a couple of years ago, but
Yeah, we get a couple.
Boy, would it be crazy.
Yeah. This has been the longest single floater or flounder in a long time. We got way off the deep end of our boy Dom. But the last thing I will just say is, yeah, the reason I think I don't feel super strongly about the various pitching contracts, Kirby and Woo and Logan, is, again, I don't think the reality is long term we're going to be able to keep all 3 of those guys.
No, I agree.
And I love all 3 like my sons. It's like, trauma is going to happen. I'm going to weep, but that's inevitable. Naylor is one where it's like, no, that could go either way, and I'm really fighting for it. But
that's like
I just have to prepare myself emotionally for losing Kirby or Woo or Gilbert.
Here's the thing. You've got 3 sons. One of them is going to have to move to New York for his job. So that's just what's going to happen. Naylor is your daughter's boyfriend, who you're like, can you please keep this guy around long term? And she's like, maybe for a couple of years we'll date, and then they break up, and you're like, But
and I love this guy more than my daughter. Dipoto is my daughter. I'm not so sure about that one, but Naylor I'm sure about. I want this guy. He's the son. He's the son I never had.
Exactly. Oh, all right. I'm going to jump into the next floater, and we've talked about him a bunch of times this season. He's been a floater, he's been a flounderer, and right now he do be floating, and that is Jorge Polanco. Jorge Polanco, just a really dominant stretch of baseball. He had that game where he had 3 doubles a couple weeks ago, but he's just been really consistent, I think, is the thing that has been undervalued here. He's gotten 489 plate appearances. Like in 2024, he had 469, but there's 2 weeks left, and he's just been like kind of exponentially more productive this year than he was last year. And obviously, he hit that point. He's got 24 home runs. He only had 16 last year. He's just been really good. 268 batting average, 329 on base, 495 slugging for an 824 OPS on the season is really awesome. Recently, in September, he's got 392 batting average, 431 on base, and a 725 OPS for a 1.156, or sorry, OBP, 1.156 OPS. I'm saying things too quickly. But either way, Jorge Polanco, just so good recently. And I don't think there's anything else we can say about him besides that he's been dominant.
Well, and it's been beyond that. This is well overdue. He is floating in a big way. He is on a 13 game hit streak. He's amounted 20 hits in those 13 games in the month of September. Yeah, he's been a monster recently, and this has been his year. He's been up, he's been down. His downs haven't been awful. I think his worst month, I guess, he was hitting 140 in the month of May, but yeah, he's just when he's good, he's been really, really good. Um, and he deserves a ton of credit for just weathering the tough times and coming through big for us in some really big moments. He is a huge part of why we managed to win 10 straight. He's been really awesome at his position. And one thing I want to say about him is, we've just talked a lot about his, hitting in general. His slugging this year has been really nice. 24 home runs
Yeah.
for, 495 slugging. That is unexpected production from my mind from Jorge Polanco. So that's been awesome to see. And yeah, man, dude, this guy can get in slumps for sure, but when he is hot, he is as effective as any player in this lineup. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, and one other, just like, I always like to look at these little underlying statistics on StatCast, but his strikeout percentage over the last 3 years, it was, or I guess we'll talk about the last four. So in hold on, let me just make a line here. 2021, it was 18.3 strikeout percentage. In 2022, it was 21.3. 2023, it was 25.7. And in 2024, it was 29.3. So that's basically almost doubled over the last 5 years. This year, it's all the way back down to 15.3%. He's just not striking out nearly as much as he did over the last couple of years. And that is, first of all, obviously putting the ball in play makes it that much easier to get on base. If you're not striking out 14 more percent of the time, you're not preventing yourself from having the opportunity to get on base. But also, he's just like, the contact that he's made is just so much better. It's kind of the same thing with pitch selection with Dom Canzone that we were talking about. Just like when you decrease your strikeout percentage and also have a good enough walk percentage, the opportunity for you to get on base really does grow exponentially. And you see it with Victor Robles, you see it with Dom Canzone, all these guys that are like making small adjustments and tweaking their batting philosophy. And this is something that I really think the Mariners probably had to do with, and it makes me excited for what this Mariners hitting staff and the hitting coaching can actually do for them in the future going forward. Be like, hey, work on your pitch selection, work on finding the zone, get better at that. And it does make me a little excited for what they can maybe do with Julio in the future, because obviously something has clicked for Julio. I don't know if it's just his capability to hit the ball, but his pitch selection's been great. Obviously his second half's been great, and I think hopefully that can translate to a full season sometime soon. But it just makes me excited for all those things.
Yeah, yeah. Julio, we had to cut off this list because we can only do four. We were really talking about him as a potential fifth. He's been awesome recently. And yeah, with him, the story is always pitch selection. Like we know what this guy is when he swings at the right pitches. And it always just seems to take him about half the season to figure out which pitches he needs to swing at. But yeah, I believe in time he'll get squared away. He's still so young. But all right, we got to keep this train moving, and we're going to talk about our last floater and flounder for the week. It will surprise no one. The MVP of the team, possibly the MVP of the American League, and that is Cal Big Dumper Raleigh. He is back in a big way. Statistically, he is having his best month since the month of June, which is great to see. There was a little bit of a slump there in July and August, post All-Star break. But yeah, after tallying up, 8 home runs, but only batting 173 in the month of August. He's already got 6 home runs in the month of September and is batting 310. So just doing a way better job. He's also got 11 walks. Is that strike? And yeah, no, he does have 11 walks. I was trying to see. He had 17 walks last month, 39 strikeouts last month, only 11 this month. That's a big difference in production. Yeah, he's been great. He's got obviously 6 hits in his last 3 games, including 3 home runs. He's been awesome in those outings, but he's just been really good consistently. I think, you know, he's continuing to hit home runs, but he's taken a little pressure off himself to hit a home run every single game and is just back to playing Cal Raleigh baseball. And that's great. You know, he's going to, by all margins, I think he has tied the Mariners single season record for home
Yes, he
runs.
just did yesterday with Ken Griffey Jr.
Yes, so one more to pass Griffey and be the all-time Mariners dinger hitter. He's got a very real chance of breaking into the 60 club, which I believe is only like 11 guys in the history of the MLB. I certainly hope he's able to check those two boxes, but you know, the pressure's off in a big way. He's got a lot of time to potentially hit 4 home runs. The Mariners are playing awesome baseball right now, and it just seems that he's playing a little bit looser, playing more for good contact, and not trying to, you know, hit everything out of the park.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Pitch selection's been a lot better. I think he's just over the course of the last 14 games where the Mariners have gotten hot again. I think he's just the contact that he's making is a lot louder because he's not just trying to hit home runs. He's not trying to get under the ball. He's trying to make solid contact and hit line drives and do the things that Cal Raleigh was doing early on in the season. I also think that like the public has kind of decided that Aaron Judge is going to be the MVP. I don't know when that happened over the last like couple weeks, but they've kind of been like, you know, it's probably not going to be Cal Raleigh. His stats on the season, you know, the 951 OPS is nice, but the 247 average just won't cut it for the public and like the people that are making or voting on this thing. So it's probably going to be Aaron Judge to win the MVP race. But I think that's also taken a lot of weight off his shoulders. He's just like, okay, now I can do my thing. I don't have to just go for this like home run title and try and shoot for that to win the MVP. So I think that's been beneficial for him, even though it's not going to, you know, the MVP for the Mariners or an MVP for the Mariners would be great. I think it's been beneficial for him in the short term of just like his success.
Sure, and Judge is very deserving. We'll see what happens if this Mariners Houston run down the stretch is as epic as it possibly could be. And if the Yankees continue to slide, they had a really good week last week, but this week has been a tough one for them. You know, they're in the wild card is getting very interesting.
Yeah.
In terms of the top, it does look like, you know, Mariners half a game up on Houston, but I think they've got a full 3 games on the bottom wild card.
Yeah.
So the odds of them falling out of the wild card are very low at this point.
Don't doubt
but
them.
The order,
don't doubt them.
yeah, well, but yeah, don't doubt anybody because I think at this point the Yankees are only like a game and a half up on the Mariners. So, you know, even if, you know, the Mariners lose and Houston secures the division, Mariners could be the top wild card depending on how these last couple weeks shake out. So everything is on the table. But yeah, Judge would be very deserving. Cal's been awesome. It has been nice. I do think the pressure's off in a big way. He was hitting sub 200 the last 2 months, and I can't help but think a big part of that was all the pressure he was feeling to try to go and do something spectacular. But now he can just get back to doing spectacular things normally.
Yeah. One more note on the Mariners. Obviously, right now, the Royals just hit that 3-run bomb. Salvador Perez brought them up 3-0 for the first time. I think for the first time, the Mariners are down, which kind of sucks. But this Astros series this upcoming weekend, that's going to be probably the biggest series for the Mariners the entire season. Obviously, as a Mariners fan, this is just like the epitome of like September baseball that you're afraid of because the Mariners keep fumbling the bag at this point. But how are you feeling going into that stretch of 3 games?
You know, honestly, I feel good. We've played Houston good this year. It looks like Yordan Alvarez is probably going to miss that entire series, if not the rest of the regular season.
Mariner
so
killer,
I do think
Mariner killer.
yeah, everybody killer. So I do think we're going to have a leg up in that regard. I was trying to decide, you know, this Houston Rangers series was also a big one, and it looks like the Astros may be able to sweep. Or they got one more. Yeah, but they're up 2-0 so far. And part of me was like, man, you know, I wanted that to be a good series. I maybe even wanted the Rangers to beat the Astros. But it is just kind of nice having knocked the Rangers out. We're now 3.5 games up on the Rangers. The odds of us dropping that to them in the last 9 are low. And it's just, you know, it was getting so tight there where it's like, oh, we're going to have to worry about both these teams. How's this all going to work out? I think I would rather be neck and neck with Houston and, you know, 4 games up on the Rangers than like a game and a half up on both of them, you know?
That would feel a little scarier. 2 teams crawling down the back of your neck.
Yeah. At least now I know who to focus on down the stretch, and that's the Astros. So it's going to be a big series, but we love big series. And that's the type of series the Mariners want to win because once you're in the playoffs, that's what every series is.
That's
like.
what it is.
So it's going to be a little early playoff preview for us here with the Mariners and the Astros, and I'm very excited.
Yeah. Okay. We did it. We talked for 30 minutes about the Mariners. We've got to move on, man.
How do we do it every week?
Real quick, we're going to spend 5 minutes on the next few things. First up, the Seattle Storm versus the Las Vegas Aces. That's a playoff series in the WNBA going on right now. I bet you didn't know that, those of you listening to this podcast. The Seattle Storm win the second game of that one, 86-83. They lost the first one pretty
102-77.
Yeah, by 25 points. So I'm excited for this third game. It does make me a little nervous that like the last one we were sweating it out and the Aces just have that much more top ceiling potential. But overall, like this is what the Storm are kind of built for. They're built to play these good teams tough. And what I do want to say about this is Dominique's really stepped up. She had a double-double in that game yesterday, or was that yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday.
And just, she looked really good. I think the team looked really good. Obviously, 50 coming from Nyeka and Skylar makes it that much more exciting. But other than that, I think the Storm have just kind of performed exactly to what we expected this season, right? They're kind of a 500 team who have held their own against tougher opponents.
Yeah, 100%. Offensively, they've played pretty good in both games. Nyeka and Skylar have been leading the way in both outings. But yeah, both of them stepped up in a big way to basically outperform Asia and Jackie Young in this second game. And then if that can happen, and if our supporting cast can outplay their supporting cast, which also happened, then we can absolutely win game 3. Now, our supporting cast beating their supporting cast, I think we have a better surrounding team around our two quote-unquote stars. So I think that's very possible. Getting an outing where Skylar and Nyeka outperform probably the best player in basketball in Asia Wilson and Jackie Young, that is going to be harder, but they can do it. I mean, Nyeka's a multi-time MVP. She was awesome this last game. They were both hitting their threes in a big way this last game, so we'll see if that can continue. But, Vegas are tied with the Lynx for the best odds to win the WNBA championship this year, and we're going to game 3 with them. So this is awesome for the Storm that they were able to pull this one. Hopefully they can get one more and pull a massive upset over the Aces. And if they can pull off this third game, who are we scared of? We've played all the best teams pretty well this year. Then just the day-to-day grind that has taken this team down. So I'm really excited. I'm excited to see what Dom can bring to the situation. I'm excited to see if Skylar and Nyeka can pull off a little more magic. Should be a really, really fun game.
Yeah, excited to watch that one. Okay, moving on. One thing that I'm just very excited to talk about is we've got the Washington State Cougars losing 10-59 against the North Texas Mean Green.
That green sure is mean, man. I'll tell you what.
Let me just point to that wolf t-shirt part of the quills in the background.
That's great. You've got that queued up. You got the wolf ready.
I was locked and loaded. Yeah, dude. What's his name? Jackson Potter. Man, 3 interceptions, 139 yards. That guy was. It was a little rough for him, to say the least, on Saturday. And yeah, this is what happens when you are not in the Pac-12 anymore and you lose a lot of the talent. You get beat up by the North Texas Mean Green. Anything that you really want to talk about with this one?
Yeah, well, obviously the passing game was awful. And this was even worse than it looks. We were down 59-3 and scored basically a last-minute touchdown. So an absolute splattering. This is worse than being an armadillo on a North Texas road. Just absolute destruction.
The Cougars being the armadillo.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But again, I just want to emphasize, I think the running game for Washington State was really rough. They're spreading the ball around. We had, 4-5 guys with 3 or more carries. They just can't seem to find somebody that can consistently gain yardage on the ground against good defenses. And again, like week 1, we noted the running game was bad. And when it's bad, it just puts a lot more pressure on Jackson Potter. We like this guy, but John Mateer, he is not. We're both West Side guys. We both like Washington State, but when it comes to them playing the Huskies, everyone knows where our loyalties lie. it's good news for UW. I'm not sure they got to take the Apple Cup out of the case for this one.
Yeah, well, I mean they do because they got to give it back because somehow Wazoo beat us last year.
That's
But
right. I forgot they lost to Wazoo last year.
I will not be watching that game in the same spot that I did last year. I got to switch up the juju on that one. But I
Yeah.
do think we can feel a lot more confident coming into this week's game. There's been a little bit of Jed Fish discussion about like is Jed Fish going to leave for that UCLA position, and I'm sure he's thought about it. I'm sure it's like on his radar. But at the end of the day, the fact that he said he was very focused on this Apple Cup game, I really believe him. I feel like he's really upset that we lost to this Cougars team last year, even though Mateer was so good and obviously has Heisman hopes. But I think coming into this week, I feel a lot more confident about the UW odds against Wazoo this
Yeah.
year.
Why would he go to UCLA? I understand that, like, yeah, it's a great basketball program. Like, their football has been atrocious. They're arguably the worst team in the Big Ten. It's just a big now, I think. But yeah, UW's playing good football. They're a fun team. They're probably gonna get spanked around by Ohio State, but that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. But they'll be competing in that second tier of Big Ten teams. Why would he want to go to an absolute dumpster fire of a program? I understand there's more money to be made there, but somebody needs to learn a lesson from DeBoer that sometimes if it's going good where you are, don't jump to the next thing. This would kind of be the opposite. I think Alabama's expectations are killing DeBoer, but it's like, yeah, oh, you're going to UCLA? Oh, that's so cool. That program is garbage. And if you can't turn it around quickly, you're going to get fired just like this last guy. And it is really hard to go into a floundering college program in an incredibly competitive conference and turn it around quickly.
Yeah, I think what you really think about with Jed Fish is like, yeah, he was able to turn that Arizona program around. Yeah, he's kind of been able to turn this UW program around after the departure of DeBoer. But I think the infrastructure at UW was really good. At all things considered, it was really nice infrastructure for him to kind of step into. His recruiting tactics have been really nice. And UCLA would obviously love to have that. He was able to turn that floundering Arizona program around in a few years. But you kind of forget that this UW situation is so good for a head coach, or was so good, and now it's like really solidified for him. For him to step away from that would be honestly kind of heartbreaking if you're a UW fan. Like this guy came in and he's put real expectations on this UW team over the last couple of years. I would hate to see him go. I really like the guy as a coach. I feel like he's done really good things for the program, especially after DeBoer's departure. So would hate
Yeah,
that.
well, and you know what? When DeBoer left for Alabama, I thought it was a bad move. I think it's played out to be a bad move. He's getting a lot of flack there. But I also understand why you would leave UW to be the Alabama head coach.
Yeah,
I get
it,
that.
it makes a little sense.
This is way more of a lateral move into a far more precarious situation. If he did this, then I'd be glad to see him go because I think that's a stupid move, and I don't want a head coach that makes stupid moves. So
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, if you're going to do that, then I'm glad you're going to do it because why would I want somebody that's going to do something like that? So we'll see. I think that'd be crazy.
Yeah, he does have the previous ties to UCLA. I believe he was the quarterbacks coach probably a decade or two ago. But yeah, he's kind of moved on from that space. I hope that he doesn't really have the draw to go back there.
Los
Anyway.
Angeles is in flames every year. Come on, stay where it's green, baby.
Anyways, let's move on. Real quick Sounders discussion. Obviously, we tied the Galaxy last week, and then we lost. Miami got their revenge against us 3-1. Don't have too much to say, but just wanted to shout them out there. Their season is coming to a close here pretty soon.
Yeah, it's making their fourth place position in the West a little more precarious. I think they've got like just a 1 point lead on the LAFC. But yeah, it's just kind of a bummer. League Cup games do not count towards your MLS record.
Yep.
We're up 4-3 in Miami against the last two outings, but the only one on the official ledger is a loss. So that's tough, but you got to roll with the punches, and hopefully they can bounce back against Austin.
Yep. All right, John, it's time to talk some Seahawks. We've been putting it off. We always put it off for the end, just so everybody, sticks around, listens to the whole pod. But the Seahawks-Steelers game was quite exciting, right? They win 31-17 after what I thought was a pretty terrible start to the game. I really was not a fan of everything that was happening. I felt like Sam Darnold was getting heavy pressure on all his play action passes, and they were able to really turn it around. He ends up going 22 of 33 for 295 yards, 2 touchdowns. Obviously the 2 interceptions, but not a bad start from Darnold. What were your thoughts coming out of this game?
Yeah, Darnold was very impressive. Two picks aside, I thought he was excellent. We got to talk about the running backs. A total reversal of fortune from last week. It turns out the death of Kenneth Walker was greatly exaggerated. And then the defense. I just thought the defense was excellent. To fluster a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers is very hard to do. Obviously, a very wily vet, but to get two picks on him was very nice. The special teams touchdown on the muffed on the muffed punt or kick return
brutal for
was
that Steelers returner.
was pretty hilarious. Yeah, that was Caleb Johnson, their I think fourth round running back.
Yep.
He has not been getting a lot of action in Pittsburgh, and there was discussion because he was fumbling a lot in training camp. That basically, and nobody hates fumbling more than their head coach,
Mike Tomlin.
Thank you, Mike Tomlin. This is not going to help. Muffing the kickoff return and giving the other team 7 points
at halftime or whenever that
yeah,
happened.
yeah. His mom picked him up for sure. So you hate to see that, but no, I thought this was just a great combination of seeing the upside of Sam Darnold in a very real way, and seeing the defense perform at a really high level. So I think this Hawks team could easily be 2-0. They are every bit a contender in this division. By the way, the NFC West, undefeated against outside opponents, one total loss, and it came internally. So get ready for an absolute raucous season in the NFC West.
Yeah, kind of the NFC West is a bit of a powerhouse, and obviously they'll get a loss this week again, probably from the Rams losing to the Eagles, but also the Cardinals played the 49ers, so we'll see what happens there. I'm really intrigued by that game, by the way. We'll probably talk about that at Value Dogs time, but really intrigued by that one. A little bit more discussion on the Seahawks rushing game. Charbonnet was really not a factor. 15 carries. He got more carries than Kenneth Walker for only 10 yards. I'm not sure. I think the Steelers' run defense is a little tricky, and I think they're really good against kind of the downhill runners. And I think Kenneth Walker is more the side to side kind of get around guys kind of type of rusher. So I think that's where you got to figure out which guy has the better running profile against whatever team you're playing against. And I think this Steelers team is going to be pretty middle of the road, all things considered, on the season. But they started off hot, and we were a little bit worried about them coming in, but I was excited. And another note that I really wanted to touch on in this one, Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp had a really good game. Like we were all very high on JSN, and that was for good reason after week 1. But they really found something with Cooper Kupp here in 7 receptions for 90 yards. He had a really, really good game and made me feel confident about him moving forward. Obviously, Torrey Horton with the touchdown shows that they believe in him too. But I really think the Cooper Kupp kind of line there is very nice, and the Arroyo coming in for two receptions and just getting his feet a little wet. It's been looking very good for this team, specifically offensively, just as they kind of progress through the season. I hope that McDonald, because I think there was some discussion about how McDonald was not confident in this offense during that 49ers game when they didn't kick the field goal, or they didn't go for it. They kicked the field goal instead. There was a lot of people that were upset about that, and it kind of came out that Mike McDonald was not as confident about his offense as I think people wanted him to be. And this week, it really felt like they kind of let the offense kind of do their own thing, and Kubiak really got into a groove there, and they did a good job this week.
Yeah, it's nice to see the receiving core really solidify too. That's always a good sign for an offense when you aren't running, 12 guys at various times out on the field. Kenneth Walker had a reception, but of the actual receivers themselves, it's a 5-man unit. It's Arroyo and Barner at tight ends. Both of them have been good in blocking situations, and both are good pass catchers. And then Horton, Kupp, and JSN. Those are our 3 receivers. Those are the guys that play and get almost all the action. So just really nice to see that group solidify. We'll know what we're looking at down the stretch. But yeah, huge game for Cooper Kupp. It was bound to happen. Him and Sam were going to make a connection at some point, and we need him to be that relief valve off of JSN. We know that JSN's the star. He was awesome again today, but to have that second guy that you can go back to and really trust is big. And you see it reflected in Darnold's stats. Again, almost 300 yards for him against a really good pass rush at the very least. The most expensive defense in football here in the Steelers. So I was very impressed with that whole situation. Yeah. Running game is confusing. I'm not ready to make a call on it. The fact that Charbonnet outcarried Walker, I think, is a sign that the coaching staff still is like, no, these guys are at least fairly equal. Some of this might just be who's getting contacted at the line of scrimmage and who isn't. But yeah, really encouraging offensive, really encouraging defensive. Steelers, I do think, are a little overrated. So let's just go out and do it again against the Saints this next week.
Yeah. One other small shout out. Ernest Jones had a really good game. Just was all over the place. Really just solidified himself as one of the premier defenders on this in this unit. And then Byron Murphy, 1.5 sacks and one tackle for loss. Like Byron Murphy had a good game, and I think it was underrated how good he is for the Seahawks team. And with his injury last year, we kind of forgot about him. But it's his second year, and I think he's just if he can continue to be this good, that's perfect. This is a Steelers team that prides itself on being a tough in the trenches team. And if he can be this good, like Leonard Williams had half a sack, Jaron Reed had a sack, like this was a good outing by the Seattle defense all around. So I had to shout them out.
Agreed.
All right, looking ahead real quick. Next week, the Seahawks playing the Saints. I'm not too worried about this. I kind of hate to say it because that should make everybody worried, but the Saints are not good. The Saints are not good. They've got Spencer Rattler at QB. They do have some explosive potential, which is the thing that worries me a little bit. This Seahawks team, obviously with the the Jalen Warren catch, they have some susceptibility to some explosive plays. But I feel like this Seahawks defense is a good test for them against like real pieces instead of having to go against kind of the DK Metcalf, Jalen Warren, like kind of second tier of guys. This is Kamara, this is Shaheed, this is like some guys who can be pretty explosive here. So I'm excited to see how the defense fares.
Yeah, explosive if nothing else. That's certainly fair. Yeah, the Saints have been scrappy this year. Obviously 0-2, but they've put up decent numbers in those two games. So Seahawks can't go in just thinking they're going to walk all over them. But if they come and execute their game plan, they should be 2-1.
Yeah, I would expect. Did JSN have a touchdown? I don't think he had a touchdown in the last game.
No, 100
yards.
yards,
He
no
has
touchdown.
one yet.
No, he caught one week 1, I
Did
believe.
he get one week 1?
See, now I exited out. I don't have my stats up in
I don't
front
remember,
of me.
but I feel like this is a JSN touchdown game. I feel like this is JSN kind of finally gets a good pop, and I do think the Cooper Kupp aspect of the Seahawks offense will allow for JSN to get more big plays, like we saw in that Steelers game. There was some opportunity for them to open it up down the middle, and JSN to just kind of duke it out against any sort of backs that are going against him. So good for him there. And now it's time, John. It's week 3 of the NFL. We've been doing this for 3 years. And I think this is our hottest start yet, right? we have to pat ourselves on the back here. We got value dogs. Both of us have gone 2-1 each week for 4-2 on the season. Look at us, man. Don't let us get hot. We start to cook against Vegas. But
I'm feeling hot right now. Bad day. Hotter than the Vegas desert. I'll tell you what, man. We're feeling real good right now.
For those of you that are new, value dogs is basically what it is we understand that over the last decade plus, underdogs have covered the spread in not a majority, but most of the games comparatively to the outright winners covering the spread.
A majority.
Yeah, I guess a majority. But I think it's like 55% of the time. The last 2 years, it has not been 55% of the time.
But it's bouncing back, baby.
Yeah, we're bouncing back right now. This is the underdogs bounce back. This is us being right now. So it's finally time for the value dogs to come our way. And we each get 3 picks. We each choose 3 underdogs to cover the spread. And John, you want to lead us off?
Yeah, well, last thing I'll say is all 4 of our winners last week, all 4 of our value dog winners, they all won outright as well. So great sign for the dogs. Love to see that.
Yep.
All right. This week, for my first value dog of the week, I'm taking the Rams plus 3.5 against the Eagles. I think the Eagles are a little bit overrated. They've played 2 teams that are good on paper in Dallas and Kansas City, but I think we've seen Dallas's weaknesses, and we've seen that Kansas City, now 0-2, is taking a real step back. Rams, on the other hand, also 2-0, have been playing really good football. Their offense is clicking in a major way. The Nakua-Devontae Adams pairing looked very deadly last week. Stafford's playing great, and they're getting 3.5 points. I think the Rams are a real contender to win outright, and to get over a field goal is just a great cushion. So I love this pick.
Yeah, this one concerned me a little bit only because I feel like the Eagles just haven't been pushing down on the gas pedal the entire time. Like I feel like they've been just eking out wins and being okay with that because they feel like they have to be conserving themselves for the playoffs, which is very fair, right? This is a team that has playoff and Super Bowl aspirations for this year. That being said, the 3.5 points makes me feel a lot better. The half point there makes me feel really good about this Rams team. And I can see where you're coming from, whereas it's like this could be a 27-24 game, could be a 27-28 game. I feel like it's going to be in that 20 range. And the Rams have garbage time touchdown, like backdoor cover potential here. So I was okay with the line. I didn't take it for myself, but I appreciated what you were doing there. For me, my first pick, I am going to take the Patriots plus 1.5 against the Steelers. We just talked about it. I think the Steelers are a little bit overrated. I think they're still getting some cred from that Week 1 game against the Jets and Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers. I still think they get some credit for that. But I think this Patriots team is going to be able to run the ball against them. This is going to be a good test for Travion Henderson. And Drake May, as just kind of that young Patriots core, goes up against what is a solid Steelers defensive line. I really think they have an opportunity to attack with some screen plays and some explosive plays in that nature, and less down the field threats like we were able to do with JSN. But I think it's going to be a good test for Drake May as a passer. But I think the Pats just win this game outright, so I like the plus 1.5.
Yeah, agreed. I looked at this line as well. Pats have been good underdogs these last 2 weeks. It's kind of the same thing as Miami is people are still remembering that week one's Pats smackdown and thinking they suck. And they are bad, but they're not that bad. And I think the Steelers are also bad. So I think getting points there is a totally viable situation.
Yep.
With my second pick, I am taking I almost said Chicago Broncos. The Denver Broncos, Mile High versus the LA Chargers. They're plus 2.5. I really like this one. Chargers are a good team, and they're 2-0. They have not played anybody very good. They've played, Las Vegas and Kansas City, neither one of which, have winning records. Broncos should be 2-0. They blew that game in a major way against the Colts. Colts are a good team for what it's worth. They're 2-0. My boy Daniel Jones, I called it out early that he was going to have a big bounce back year, and so far he certainly has. So Broncos have played, they beat Tennessee, which wasn't very impressive, but that was week 1. And then they blew this game to a very competent Colts team last week. I think they're going to be coming into this game angry and disciplined. I think they're going to really want this win. And I do think right now the Chargers are just a little bit overrated. Again, the Broncos have, on paper, the best defense in football. And all they need to do is get enough out of Bo Nix in this offense to outlast the Chargers. I think they're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a true test of how good the Chargers really are. I think a lot of people are pretty high on them, myself included. Like, I think the Chargers are going to be good, and I think they'll be a playoff team. But I think this is going to be kind of the test for Justin Herbert and that receiving core when it comes to he's got 3 receivers that are competent, and it's a question of how they're going to be able to execute against a Denver Broncos defense. It's going to be really good. It is in LA, but that doesn't really matter. It's the Chargers get nothing really in terms of their home field advantage. I was thinking if it was in Denver, like I would have taken that for sure. But that's other than that, I think it's a good line. I think 2.5 is a questionable one. We'll see. I'm not sure if the Broncos win, and 2.5 is kind of on the fence for me about whether they will cover. That kind of point range is always tough for me.
3.5 would be better. Sure.
Yeah. If you're a betting person, you could adjust that line to 3.5. I would recommend that. But
how dare you disparage my picks? Talk about the Texans.
All right, with my second pick, I am going to take the Houston Texans plus 1.5 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the Jags, for some reason, have gotten overrated, and the Texans have gotten underrated just because of who the Texans have played. The Texans played the Bucks, who are probably the best or like South team in general, right? Between the two Souths, the Bucks look really good, and the Texans line and that Texans home field like really made me worried that the Bucks weren't going to win that game. That looked like a really close. Obviously, they win by 1. It's a close game, but it felt like the Bucks were going to be down and lose that game just by how it was playing out. All that being said, I like the Texans line versus Trevor Lawrence. I think that's something that I think Trevor Lawrence has not been making great decisions. BTJ has not been very impactful, and I think that's a question of how it's gonna continue throughout the season. And Travis Hunter really hasn't done anything for this team so far. So the Jags' weapons just really aren't there. Obviously, they've got a couple potential running back threats, but against this Texans front, I think it's going to be probably a lower scoring game, and I think the Texans just win it outright, like I said, about the Pats as well. So I think this is just a good dog. Take that plus 1.5 points.
Yeah, I completely agree. I looked at this line for a long time. I think there's a real argument the Texans are better on both sides of the ball than Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Jacksonville just lost a game to Jake Browning, which is, not what you want to see. And the Texans just, Baker Mayfield just ripped their hearts out. Classic 2-minute Baker going all the way down the field, converting on 4th and 10, scoring a touchdown to steal that game. But the Texans very well could have beaten the Buccaneers. So, I think this is very good value. With my last pick of the week, I'm taking the Giants +6 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Classic overreaction by me. Giants had an epic throw the ball downfield battle with Dallas last week. Russ, I think, had his second most or most ever yards in a game. I think he had like 470 air yards, which is just crazy. The Dallas secondary really needs to look at themselves in the mirror and decide what their safeties are going to do for them. But yeah, this is a situation where it feels like an overreaction, but I don't think it is. I think the Chiefs are bad. I think they're a very mid team. They're 0-2. Could they bounce back this week and beat the Giants? Absolutely. But I'm getting 6 points.
Yeah.
I would say the winner of this game is like 60-40 Chiefs, but the winner -6 points I think is like 80-20 Giants. I just think this is a situation where this is why you look at dogs. I'm not picking the winner. I'm picking the winner -6. And I think that gives a big advantage to the New York Giants.
Yeah, the Chiefs have not proven themselves to be able to score more than 20 points in a game this year. So I'm taking the Giants to score at least 14 points. I feel like they can do that against this Chiefs team.
Yeah.
And I could see where the benefit is there in the dogs. This was one game where I looked at that and I was like, I could see that. And then I just kind of moved away because I have another pick. But I liked where your head was at with that one.
Yeah. I well said too about low scoring. 6 points in a low scoring game is a lot of value.
Yeah. Okay, next up, I have got, with the last pick of the Week 3 Sound Up Seattle value, dogs, the Raiders, +3.5 against the Commanders. And this one, I feel like, is my bit of a stretch one. But the Commanders, obviously, Jaden Daniels has been labeled as injured over the last week or so from last week's game. And the Raiders, I feel like they just haven't fully fired on all cylinders yet. I really think they're close to being okay with the Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, Ashton Genty. Like, I think their offensive weapons are good enough, and their ability to impact the passer on the defensive side of the ball is just like good enough with Max Crosby. So I think this is Jaden Daniels is hurt. They're going to be, the Raiders may lose this game by 3 points, but I like the 3.5. I like that extra half point there, and I think it's going to be probably I honestly think it's going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game. So I like that 3.5 points there.
I think that's totally fair. Yeah, Raiders looking to bounce back after Geno's worst game in maybe a full season.
Yep.
I think they can do that against this Commanders team. 3.5 points is always a good place to be. Yeah, again, I think the Commanders probably win, but having 3.5 is a great cushion.
That's why we call it value. All right, dude, we did it. We subbed 1 hour. We got sub 1 hour. That is so big. Oh.
The people are cheering.
So if you were listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're also live on YouTube when we do this. So check us out there. Drop a subscription. If you're listening on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. But other than that, you can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at SoundUpSeattle, all lowercase, all one word. You can email us questions, comments, concerns, really just more of our Value Dogs picks if you really want to know. We're here to provide for you guys. If you want us to help with your betting strategy, we can do that. You can email us at soundupseattle@gmail.com. You can find me, Tyler, at TyCart50 everywhere it's important. And you can find John.
Watching The Sopranos, man. Great show. First time watching through it. These Italians, what are you going to do?
I've never seen The Sopranos either. I feel like that's kind of a classic show that fell by the wayside in terms of my TV viewing experience.
Yeah. I would suggest, man, HBO.
I might have to lock in. I also need to watch Breaking Bad. I've never watched Breaking Bad all the way through.
See, that one I didn't like. I'm standing against.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a hot take.
Standing against the culture on that one.
All right. Well, with all that being said, gotta hit a go Nerds, baby. Gotta hit a go Nerds. 2 weeks left.
I'm gonna say go Storm because their back's against the wall.
That's fair.
My heart is with